You wake up early, work past the clock, turn down countless invitations, and in return, you're met with silence. You wake up early, what you've work past the clock, no one understands the weight you carry each day, and in return, and then you ask yourself, is all no one knows what you've work past the Stoic philosophy. No one understands the weight you carry each day, in return by how often you ask yourself, but by your ability to work past the Stoic philosophy. No one understands the weight you carry. You realize you only control your thoughts, but by your ability, you stop depending on external validation. This is inner power, the kind structure of your life. A building may be beautifully decorated, but if its foundation is weak, it will collapse. Likewise, without discipline, the skills, knowledge, and opportunities you have will quickly erode. Discipline is the ability to hold to right action regardless of passing emotions, and the strength to live by the principles you have chosen, even when no one is forcing you. What makes discipline a foundation is that it gives structure to each day. A day led by discipline is not a series of reactions to random events, but a set of deliberate choices made because they serve your long-term purpose. When you wake up and begin the morning with a clear plan, you send a strong signal to your mind that you are in command. Conversely, when you drift through the day without order, you quietly surrender control to circumstances and to others. Discipline does not depend on whether you feel motivated. Motivation is emotion. It shifts with the weather, your health, or the praise and criticism around you. Discipline is commitment. It stands firm even on your worst days. A disciplined person does not ask, "Do I feel like doing this?" but, "Does this need to be done?" When the answer is yes, they act without waiting for inspiration or ideal conditions. This consistency, not bursts of energy, is what creates lasting results. To build personal discipline, you must clearly define the core principles you will live by. Principles are not vague promises like, "I'll work harder" or "I'll live healthier," but specific, measurable standards you can repeat daily. Instead of saying, "I'll read more," set a principle such as, "I'll read for 20 minutes every morning before work." Once a principle becomes concrete, it turns into an action. An action sustained over time becomes habit. Habit, when maintained long enough, forms discipline. One effective way to maintain discipline is to create daily rituals. A ritual differs from a habit in that it is symbolic and carried out with full attention. A morning ritual may take only 10 minutes, but when done consistently, it becomes a powerful reminder that you are living by your own standards. Rituals help you start the day from a place of intention rather than being swept up immediately by external demands like news, social media, or messages. Discipline also requires a feedback system. You cannot simply act and hope discipline will sustain itself. Track your progress through a journal, a checklist, or an app. Recording the times you uphold your principles, as well as the times you slip, is not for self-punishment, but to see your behavioral patterns clearly. When you notice when you tend to abandon discipline, you can adjust your environment or plan to reduce the chances of it happening again. Another key to sustainable discipline is purposeful flexibility. Many think discipline means rigid adherence without change. In truth, an overly rigid structure breaks when the unexpected happens. Purposeful flexibility means you adjust the method without abandoning the principle. If you miss your morning workout because of a sudden meeting, you do it in the evening. The principle stands, only the timing changes. This keeps your discipline alive in real life. It is crucial to understand that discipline is not for impressing others. It is not a performance to earn praise or admiration. If your goal is recognition, you will quit when no one is watching. Discipline must arise from the need to protect and develop yourself. When you do the right thing simply because it is what you have chosen, you reach a new level of self-mastery, one where progress does not depend on the environment or public opinion. The Stoics said, "Be lenient with others, but strict with yourself." This is not harshness for its own sake, but the setting of high standards for yourself while recognizing that others have their own path. Personal discipline demands that you not only know what you want, but also act in alignment with it every day. When you hold to discipline, you are not merely completing tasks, you are shaping an identity, a person who keeps their word to themselves. Over time, discipline becomes the bedrock of all other achievements. It sustains your health, sharpens your skills, strengthens your finances, builds quality relationships, and enables you to reach great goals without being defeated by temporary setbacks. More importantly, it gives you an inner steadiness because you know you can trust yourself. No reward or praise can replace that. When you begin to see discipline as the foundation of life rather than a temporary tool, you will notice it in every choice you make. From what you eat, when you sleep, how you use your time, to how you respond to hardship, all reflect the level of discipline you have trained. And when this foundation is strong, you can build anything on it, knowing it will stand firm against any storm. 2. Filter out noise and keep the mind still. In an age where information surrounds every moment, the ability to keep a still mind is no longer a luxury, it is a survival skill. Noise comes not only from the sounds, images, and events outside, but also from the constant collision of thoughts within you. Every phone notification, news headline, and rushed conversation can pull you out of focus, scattering fragments of useless information into your mind. Without the ability to filter, you will lose command of your thinking and let your mind be led and divided. Keeping a still mind does not mean abandoning modern life or avoiding all interaction. It is the ability to choose deliberately what enters your mind and what is shut out. Each thought and piece of information is like a guest you decide whether to open the door or close it to protect your inner peace. The Stoics knew that if the mind becomes a noisy marketplace where anything is allowed in, you will inevitably lose self-mastery. A key step in filtering noise is setting clear mental boundaries. This applies not only to your physical environment, but also to how you consume information. Know when to open yourself to input and when to close it off. Before you let anything in, ask, does this help me live in line with my values, or does it only create distraction? Stillness is not accidental. It is the result of continuous, conscious choice. When you reduce noise, a remarkable thing happens. Clarity begins to emerge. Instead of reacting instinctively to every stimulus, you have space to observe, analyze, and decide with reason. This is the state the Stoics sought: a mind unshaken by what is beyond control, focused only on what can be influenced. To maintain a still mind, cultivate the habit of observing without immediate reaction. When an unexpected piece of information, a remark or an event arises, pause and ask, does this truly matter? Does it relate to living a meaningful life? That brief pause is enough to reclaim control and prevent your mind from being swept into unnecessary turbulence. It is not enough to control what enters you, must also watch the inner environment. Noise comes not just from outside, but from endless internal chatter. Repeated thoughts about the past, vague worries about the future, pointless comparisons with others. The Stoics advised, leave the past where it belongs and focus only on what can be done now. When your mind is fully present, it is no longer pulled between what has been and what has not yet come. Part of keeping the mind still is learning to accept silence as a natural part of life. Many feel uneasy when things are too quiet, rushing to fill the space with sound or images. Yet in silence, the mind can rest, sort through what it has taken in, and find clearer direction. Stillness is not an empty void to be filled, but a precious space to reconnect with yourself. Filtering noise does not mean rejecting all negativity. Life will always contain unpleasant situations, unwanted news, and hurtful words. The issue is not avoiding them entirely, but in how you receive and process them. A still mind is like a calm lake. Even if a stone is thrown in, the ripples quickly fade instead of lasting endlessly. With persistent practice in filtering noise, you will find yourself less influenced by trivial matters. You will be less drawn into meaningless arguments, less compelled to react to every opinion, and quicker to see what is worth your time and energy. This stillness not only makes your thinking clearer, but also protects your mental health, lowers stress, and sharpens your focus on what matters most. Keeping the mind still is not a fixed destination, but an ongoing process. Each day, you will make dozens, even hundreds, of small choices to guard that stillness. Every right choice strengthens your capacity. It is a journey without end, but its reward, serenity in the midst of chaos, is beyond what power or wealth can offer. When you master the art of filtering noise and keeping your mind still, life ceases to be a chain of hurried reactions. It becomes a steady flow guided by clarity and purpose. And only in that state can you truly live by your own will, rather than be carried along by the will of others. 3. Walk alone when no one believes in your dream. Every great journey begins in silence and often in solitude. When you carry a dream or a goal that differs from the crowd, you quickly realize that not everyone can see what you see. Many will doubt, dismiss, or simply ignore it. This is not necessarily because they wish to discourage you, but because they can only judge based on what they already know. What has never existed in their experience is hard for them to accept at once. Walking alone when no one believes means moving forward without applause or companionship. It demands that you build an inner source of strength, strong enough not to rely on external support. The Stoics emphasize that the only things truly under your control are your mind and your actions. If you must have others' belief before you begin, you have placed your fate in their hands. Walking alone does not mean rejecting all help or cutting ties, but being willing to keep moving even when help is absent. You must accept that in the early stages, isolation may be the price of walking an untrodden path. That isolation may make you doubt yourself, but it will also train you to stand on your own. In the quiet, you learn to hear your own thoughts, to re-examine why you began, and to sharpen your direction. One of the greatest challenges of walking alone is facing social pressure. We are often taught that success is measured by recognition, and the value of an idea is determined by how many people agree with it. But both history and Stoic philosophy say otherwise. Great progress often begins with individuals willing to stand apart from the crowd. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that the worth of an action lies not in how many agree with it, but in whether it is in harmony with reason and virtue. When no one believes, you must become your own witness. This means every step you take should be anchored in alignment between your goals and your actions, not in fleeting encouragement. Each day you advance, whether anyone sees it or not, is a day you prove your dream worthy. By acting consistently, you create undeniable evidence for yourself, And over time, that evidence will be strong enough to draw others' attention. Walking alone is also a test of commitment. If you pursue your dream only when supported, that is enthusiasm, not commitment. True commitment is shown when you keep going through long stretches of silence, without the spotlight, without anyone asking about your progress. In those moments, you are forging perseverance, a quality no talent or luck can replace. One rarely mentioned benefit of walking alone is the freedom to decide. Without dependence on outside approval, you have the right to shape your path in the way that fits you best, without adjusting to please others. This freedom allows you to experiment, make mistakes, adjust, and grow at your own pace. It turns the journey into a process of self-discovery rather than a race toward a finish line. Still, walking alone does not mean isolating yourself forever. The goal is to develop the ability to stand firm so that when opportunities to collaborate arise, you can do so without losing your identity. Once you have built inner strength, external recognition, if it comes, will be a bonus, not a requirement. Walking alone when no one believes is proof that you understand the value of time and perseverance. You know that every seed needs time to sprout, and you cannot force others to see the tree while it is still underground. Your work is to keep tending, keep protecting the dream, and patiently wait for the day it breaks the surface. In the end, the time you spend walking alone will become the most valuable part of the journey. It gives you the chance to build inner strength, to test your faith in yourself, and to learn that you do not need the world's belief to begin. As long as you believe strong enough, long enough, steadfast enough one day, the dream will step into the light on its own. And when it does, those who once doubted will fall silent, and you will know you were right not to stop. 4. Show up every day as part of who you are. Showing up every day is not just an action. It is a silent declaration that you are committed to your path. It is not something you do when inspired, but something you do regardless of emotional highs or lows, whether circumstances favor you or not. When you show up daily, you send a clear message to yourself that your goals, values, and direction are not temporary. They are core to who you are. Stoic philosophy teaches that a person's worth lies not in promises, but in actions sustained over time. Endurance is not the result of one giant leap, but the product of small, repeated steps taken over the long run. When showing up becomes a habit, it no longer depends on fleeting motivation, it becomes a natural rhythm. You do not need to deliberate over whether to act, because it has become your default choice. Showing up daily is also a way to cultivate self-respect. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, even to complete a small task, you strengthen the belief that you are reliable. This trust in yourself matters more than any external recognition, because it forms the foundation for setting bigger goals and believing you can achieve them. Conversely, each time you quit or delay without reason, you send the opposite signal, feeding self-doubt. By showing up consistently, you build momentum. Every action today becomes the groundwork for tomorrow, and this chain of actions compounds into a force far greater than what you could achieve with sporadic effort. This momentum advances not only your skills and knowledge, but also your mental stability. When you know you will always show up, you become less shaken by obstacles because you understand that a single setback cannot break the rhythm you have built. A key element of showing up every day is learning to act without tying yourself to immediate results. The Stoics taught that we control effort, not outcomes. When you base your sense of worth on taking the action itself rather than on the final result, you free yourself from unnecessary pressure and disappointment. You understand that each day you show up is a victory, regardless of visible rewards. Showing up daily also means embracing repetition. In a world chasing novelty and stimulation, sticking with familiar tasks can feel dull. Yet it is precisely this persistence that forms a strong foundation. Building a house means laying brick after brick. You cannot skip the step just because it looks the same. Each day you show up is another brick, and over time, the structure you create will be so solid that nothing can break it. When showing up becomes part of your identity, it is no longer an item on your to-do list, it is who you are. You no longer force yourself to get up and start, because you know it is simply what you do just as naturally as breathing. This identity gives you a unique strength, removing the inner struggle over whether to act. You do not ask, "Should I today?" The answer is always yes. Over time, this consistency will set you apart not because you are more talented, but because you are more steadfast. While many stop when things get hard or when emotions fade, you continue. This not only moves you further toward your goals, but also earns the respect of those around you, even if they never say it aloud. Ultimately, showing up every day as part of who you are proves a truth the Stoics often remind us of. Life is not shaped by grand moments, but by the small actions we repeat daily. When you choose to show up regardless of circumstances, you are building a life you can be proud of, not because it is perfect, but because it is lived with consistency, intention, and integrity. 5. Eliminate distractions at the root. Distractions are not merely small interruptions that steal a few minutes from your day. They are thieves of focus that steadily drain your mental strength. They creep into your daily habits, occupy space in your mind, and little by little pull you away from what truly matters. The danger of distractions lies in their disguise. They often appear harmless, even offering momentary comfort, making it harder to see how much control they have over you. If you want to live with direction and depth, you must do more than reduce distractions, you must remove them at the root. Eliminating distractions begins with honest recognition. Many believe they lose focus only because of external conditions, but in truth, the source often lies within the mind itself. It may be needless preoccupations, worries about the future, or repetitive thoughts about the past. The Stoics understood that when the mind is not trained to remain in the present, even in a quiet room, we can still be distracted by ourselves. The first step, then, is to observe and identify what truly pulls you away from focus. Once identified, trace them back to their origins. Some distractions arise from long-standing habits, automatic responses you no longer notice. Others come from a lack of clear goals, leaving the mind easily drawn to anything new or exciting. Stoic philosophy reminds us, if you do not deliberately guide your thoughts, they will be led by random influences. Removing distractions at the root means building the foundation for focus, not just cleaning the surface. One effective method is to set clear rules for how you use your time and energy. Rather than reacting to distractions when they appear, create an environment, both external and internal, where they struggle to gain entry. This includes managing the information you consume, limiting how many tasks you take on at once, and prioritizing activities that bring real value. Each rule you set is a barrier protecting your focus, sparing you from constantly fighting off fleeting temptations. Rooting out distractions also requires accepting a truth. You cannot do everything, and you should not try. Every commitment, every yes to something unnecessary is an invisible cost taken from your time and attention. The Stoics advised evaluating each invitation or task by asking, will this bring me closer to my goal or help me live by my values? If the answer is no, have the courage to refuse. A commonly overlooked source of distraction is emotion. Many distractions come from our attempts to avoid discomfort, anxiety, boredom, pressure. Instead of confronting and processing these feelings, we seek immediate relief through diversions. This creates a cycle. The more we avoid, the more we reinforce the habit of distraction. Removing distractions at the root means learning to stand still in discomfort, to observe it without impulsive reaction, and to let it pass. Sustainable focus does not come from forcing yourself to pay attention, but from building a supportive system. This includes prioritizing tasks, keeping your workspace orderly, and setting proper rest periods to prevent burnout. When you systematically remove sources of interference, your mind will naturally settle into greater calm and focus. Eliminating distractions at the root is also an exercise in self-mastery. Each time you notice a temptation and choose not to follow it, you strengthen your will. The Stoics believe that true freedom is not doing whatever you want, but not being ruled by anything outside your reason. When you master your attention, you master the way you live. This is not a one-time task, but a continuous process. Every stage of life brings new forms of distraction, and your job is to recognize, adapt, and keep guarding your focus. When you commit to this principle, you will find your mental energy better spent, your progress clearer, and most importantly, you will live with full awareness rather than letting your life be fragmented by the trivial. 6. Fully own your responsibility. Owning full responsibility is one of the core principles for building a life of depth and inner strength. This is not only about admitting fault when you are wrong. It means accepting that every result in your life, good or bad, is a direct or indirect outcome of your own choices and actions. When you embrace this, you give up the right to blame circumstances, other people, or anything outside your control. You realize that the power to shape your life rests in no one's hands but your own. The Stoics long emphasized that the only true domain we control is our actions and our responses. Everything else, from the weather, to the market, to the opinions of others, is outside our direct control. To fully own responsibility means focusing entirely on what you can influence, refusing to waste time complaining about what is beyond reach. By doing so, you free yourself from the role of the victim and step into the role of the creator. Owning responsibility also means not relying on pity or rescue from others to move forward. You may receive help, but you do not depend on it as a prerequisite. Instead, you take initiative seeking solutions, taking action, and making adjustments when things do not go as planned. This demands absolute honesty with yourself, the willingness to face mistakes, accept consequences, and work to correct them without excuses. When you fully own responsibility, you also begin to see success and failure differently. Success is no longer merely the product of luck or favorable circumstances, but of preparation, choice, and persistence. Failure is no longer a sentence, but feedback, a reality check showing what must change. The Stoics taught that every hardship is a chance to strengthen character, and meeting it with a proactive spirit is the highest form of responsibility. This does not mean you can control everything that happens to you. External events may occur without warning, sometimes unrelated to your actions, but even then, you own your response. You can choose to remain calm, learn from the situation, and keep moving, or you can choose resentment, complaint, and stagnation. That choice always belongs to you, and it shapes the quality of your life. Owning responsibility helps you avoid the trap of waiting for perfect conditions before starting. When you understand that progress comes from deliberate action, you stop delaying and begin with what you have. You no longer blame lack of time, resources, or support because you know the first step is always within your power. Each step you take, however small, is proof that you are in control of your life. Another powerful benefit of full responsibility is that it gives you the power to change. If you believe the cause of your problems lies outside you, you will remain trapped in helplessness, unable to change what you cannot control. But if you believe you have a role in the outcome, you open the door to adjust your behavior, refine your strategy, and improve the situation. The Stoics saw this as the only path to true inner freedom because you are no longer dependent on the world's changes to find peace and progress. Owning full responsibility is not just a life strategy, it is a declaration of dignity. It says you refuse to let circumstances define you, you will not let past mistakes imprison you, and you will not let others' opinions limit you. It says you understand that real strength comes from within, from your ability to self-correct, self-direct, and stand firm no matter what happens. When you live by this principle, you not only take charge of your path, you become someone others can trust, because they know you will never run from responsibility for your own life. 7. Persevere, even when you want to quit. Perseverance is not simply the ability to keep going when things are smooth, it is the strength to move forward even when everything seems against you. The urge to quit often comes when you are most exhausted, when no results have appeared and the road ahead feels uncertain. It is in these moments that true perseverance is tested. The Stoics believe that a person's worth is not measured by how many times they start, but by how many times they refuse to stop, even when every reason to quit seems valid. Perseverance begins with accepting that the path to any achievement is neither straight nor easy. It is filled with obstacles, slow stretches, and moments when you feel you are making no progress despite great effort. When you understand this as a natural part of the process, you are less shaken by disappointment. You see that hardship does not mean failure, it often means you are on the right path, because the right path demands more persistence than most are willing to give. It also requires a long-term view. If you focus only on immediate results, you will lose heart when progress is slow or outcomes are unclear. But when you look further ahead, you see that each day of persistence builds a foundation for far greater results than can be seen in the moment. The Stoics advised letting reason, not emotion, guide you because emotions sway with circumstances, while reason keeps you anchored to your original purpose. The hardest part of perseverance is acting when all motivation is gone. At such times, willpower becomes your only fuel. Willpower is not dependent on feelings or excitement. It is built on principle and commitment. Once you have made a promise to yourself, perseverance means honoring it even when your mind searches for every excuse to delay or abandon it. Each time you overcome the urge to quit, you not only move closer to your goal, but also strengthen your deepest capacity for self-control. Another vital aspect of perseverance is adaptability. Blind persistence doing the same thing in the same way without results does not lead to growth. True perseverance is not stubbornness. It is knowing when to adjust your strategy while keeping your direction unchanged. The Stoics stressed that flexibility is not weakness, but a sign of strength, because only those truly committed to their goal are humble enough to change their approach when it fails. Perseverance also means enduring stretches where results seem non-existent. These are the times when you work hard, without recognition, without visible improvement, and without any proof that you are closer to success. Most people quit here, believing their effort is wasted. But the persistent understand that this is part of the growth cycle, like a seed lying in the soil before it sprouts. They keep going, not because they are certain of the outcome, but because they trust the value of the process. Over time, perseverance builds a rare inner strength, the ability to stand firm in adversity. Every time you move through a moment when you wanted to stop, you become stronger, more resilient, and more confident in facing challenges. Eventually, what once discouraged you becomes trivial, and new obstacles are seen as opportunities to reinforce your inner strength. Persevering, even when you want to quit, is not blind action, it is a conscious choice. You keep going, not because you must, but because you know that stopping would leave you with regrets far heavier than temporary fatigue. The Stoics reminded us that all great things are built from small but steady steps. By choosing perseverance, you are laying stone after stone in the foundation of your life, and one day you will look back and see that every moment you wanted to stop but didn't has shaped the person you are proud to become. 8. Trust the process even before you see results. Trusting the process is a test of both intellect and spirit. It requires continuing to act even when no results are visible and there is no clear sign you are on the right path. This is one of the most essential qualities for achieving any great goal, because all lasting achievements are built through quiet phases, those periods when your efforts seem to disappear into nothingness. The Stoics understood this well and taught that consistency is measured not by the speed of results, but by the ability to keep acting out of belief in the value of the path itself. Trusting the process begins with understanding that all growth follows natural laws. Just as a tree must take time to root before breaking through the soil, every skill, project, or personal change requires a hidden phase to gather strength and build a firm foundation. Not seeing results immediately does not mean nothing is happening. In fact, this is often when the most important progress is taking shape beneath the surface. If you quit here, you will never see the reward for what you've invested. This trust also demands detachment from the obsession with immediate outcomes. Humans often seek quick proof to confirm they are moving in the right direction, but without such proof, doubt quickly creeps in and effort declines. The Stoics taught that instead of measuring success by immediate results, measure it by whether you are taking the necessary actions each day. This sustains motivation without being tied to factors beyond your control. A key part of trusting the process is holding a long-term vision. When you know your goal and understand its value, you can more easily accept slow, uncertain phases. Long-term vision serves as a compass, keeping you oriented even when everything around you feels chaotic. You do not need to see the entire road to take the next step, you just need enough faith to keep moving forward, one step at a time. Trusting the process does not mean blindly continuing without reassessment. It is a balance of commitment and adaptability. You remain loyal to the goal, but are ready to adjust your strategy if the current one proves ineffective. The Stoics stressed that wisdom lies in knowing the difference between changing your method and abandoning your purpose. Trusting the process is not stubbornness, it is patient persistence with direction. During the unseen phase, consistency matters most. Every small, repeated action accumulates into significant change over time. The problem is that most people underestimate the power of these small acts and overestimate the need for dramatic breakthroughs. As a result, they neglect what can be done today while waiting for the big moment. Trusting the process means committing to these small steps, knowing they form the foundation for future leaps. This trust also builds inner strength. When you no longer rely on immediate results to maintain motivation, you learn to find satisfaction in completing the work itself, in the discipline of practice, and in the quiet pride of keeping your commitments. The Stoics called this the greatest victory, overcoming your own impatience and doubt. Trusting the process is a principled choice. You choose to continue without guarantees, because you understand that things of real value rarely come quickly. You accept that success demands patience and that every step, no matter how small, is an indispensable part of the whole picture. When you trust the process, you are not just working toward a result, you are cultivating a quality that will serve you in every part of life. The ability to stand firm and keep acting even when the reward lies far ahead. 9. Hold the vision to the end. Holding the vision to the end is the ability to maintain direction and belief in your chosen path, even when everything around you seems to push you toward detours or abandonment. This is not only a matter of persistence, but of loyalty to yourself, to the ideals, values, and goals you set from the beginning. The Stoics saw vision as a lighthouse, guiding you through life's storms. Lose connection to it, and you are easily swept away by passing waves, losing your course. Holding the vision requires absolute clarity from the start. You must know exactly what you are aiming for, and more importantly, why you want to achieve it. When your why is strong enough, it becomes the fuel that keeps you moving even when motivation and inspiration have faded. The Stoics often encouraged asking, does this goal truly align with my nature and my values? Only when the vision comes from the core of who you are will it have the endurance to stay with you to the end. One of the greatest challenges is the temptation of short-term detours. Along the journey, you will meet opportunities that seem easier, promising faster rewards. But if they do not serve your long-term vision, they become distractions that slow you down or even lead you astray. The Stoics taught that commitment to vision is not rejecting all change, but knowing the difference between what supports your goal and what pulls you away from it. Holding the vision also means accepting that the road will never be perfectly straight or smooth. There will be turns, setbacks, and times when you cannot move as quickly as you wish. In such moments, those without a clear vision are quick to doubt themselves. But those with steady vision see challenges as an inevitable part of the path. Rather than signs to stop, they see them as chances to prove their worth and strength. Importantly, vision is not just a destination, it is a standard for decision-making. Every choice you make, from the smallest to the largest, either moves you closer to it or further away. Holding the vision means refusing to let short-term choices undermine long-term direction. The Stoics reminded us that a ship will never reach port if it constantly changes course because of small waves. Another key to holding vision is resisting negative influence from others. There will always be doubt, contrary advice, and even social pressure to change course. Without inner steadiness, you risk living by others' expectations rather than staying true to your own. This demands self-confidence built from knowing your worth and why you began. Holding the vision also means nurturing it daily. A vision cannot remain only as a vague idea in your mind. It must be reinforced through consistent action, thought, and aligned choices. The Stoics liken vision to a flame if not tended. It dies, not from great winds, but from neglect and indifference. To hold the vision to the end is a lifelong commitment. You do not keep it only when the way is easy, but also when it is hard and filled with doubt. This does not mean you never adjust your methods or refine your goals to match new realities, but it does mean you never lose the essence and purpose you began with. Live with that kind of resolve, and you will see that vision is not just a point to reach, but something that shapes your entire being, giving you the strength to continue and the peace of knowing you are living true to what you most deeply believe. 10. Rise after every fall. Rising after every fall is both an art and a challenge that demands greater inner strength than achieving success itself. Falling is inevitable in life, for anyone walking the path of growth and pursuing what is truly valuable will face failure, mistakes, or loss. The Stoics do not seek to avoid the fall, they prepare their minds to receive it as a natural part of the journey. They understand that what matters is not how many times you fall, but how many times you are willing to rise again. The strength to rise does not come from pretending the pain does not exist, but from facing it with calm and reason. When failure strikes, the first human reaction is often hurt, loss, or self-blame. Yet if you allow these emotions to rule for too long, you sink into a spiral of delay and self-doubt. The Stoics choose instead to look directly at the truth, to analyze the cause, and to draw the lesson from the fall, rather than dwell on feelings of injustice or resentment. Rising after each fall also means accepting that no one is immune to failure. No matter how well you prepare, there will always be factors beyond your control that disrupt your plans. This acceptance is not resignation, it is the foundation for regaining agency. When you waste no time denying reality, you can quickly focus on what you can do next. The Stoics remind us that in moments of loss, you have the greatest chance to train your deepest self-mastery. It also requires patience with yourself. After a fall, you may feel as though all progress has been erased and you must start over. But in truth, each time you rise, you are not returning to the same starting point. You come back with experience, insight, and resilience you never had before. The wounds and failures do not erase what you have learned. They can make you stronger if you use them as part of your growth. Another essential element is the ability to keep your vision even when at your lowest. In the depths, long-term vision can be clouded by immediate disappointment and hardship. If you are not careful, you can become trapped in short-term thinking, focused only on the pain instead of the path ahead. The Stoics teach that to rise, you must anchor yourself to something, be it a goal, a principle, or a core value that reminds you why you cannot stay where you are. Rising again also means shedding the fear of falling once more. Many, after failure, withdraw, avoid risk, and walk only on safe roads. But that safety also limits your growth. The Stoics believe that courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to keep walking, knowing you may fall again. Each time you take that risk and rise, you expand your own limits. To rise is to affirm your sovereignty over your life. Each time you choose to move forward instead of staying down, you declare that circumstances do not define you and that failure is not the end. This is a power. No one can take the power to choose your response to adversity. The Stoics see this as a form of ultimate freedom, for it frees you from dependence on outcomes and focuses you on your own capacity to act. Rising after each fall is not just about continuing the journey, it is about becoming a better version of yourself. Every time you overcome a failure, you not only move closer to your goal, but also forge greater resilience, a calmer mind, and a heart less easily subdued. The Stoics know that life is not defined by the number of times you fall, but by how you rise and keep walking, not in despair, but in the belief that each step forward carries more meaning because of the falls that shaped it. 11. Learn for life with humility. Lifelong learning with humility is one of the most enduring principles of Stoic philosophy, rooted in the understanding that human knowledge is limited while the world is infinite in its complexity. The Stoics believe that a closed mind, satisfied with what it already knows, is the greatest barrier to growth. Conversely, an open mind, ready to listen and receive, will always find opportunities to expand understanding and refine itself. Humility in learning does not mean diminishing your worth. It means recognizing that everyone has something to teach you. Every experience holds a lesson, and every failure is a form of knowledge. Humility frees us from the illusion that we know enough. Self-satisfaction often keeps people in their comfort zones, refusing to explore new ideas or dismissing different perspectives. This leads to stagnation and, over time, a rigid mind. The Stoics teach that knowledge truly lives only when it is continually tested and renewed. And this is possible only when you admit you do not know everything. Such admission creates the space for deeper learning while fostering the discipline to cultivate knowledge every day. Lifelong learning also demands initiative. Knowledge does not simply arrive to those who wait. It must be sought, explored, and applied. This drive comes from understanding that each day offers a chance to improve, and each small improvement builds the foundation for the future. The Stoics view learning as a way of living, not a temporary phase or obligation, but a habit bound to self-mastery, much like physical training strengthens the body, while study trains the mind and soul. Humility in learning also protects us from intellectual arrogance, a trap many fall into once they possess a certain amount of knowledge. Intellectual arrogance closes the ears, dulls observation, and blinds us to valuable lessons from seemingly simple sources. The Stoics emphasize that true wisdom is not about knowing more than others, but about applying what you know rightly, while remaining open to learn from anyone in any position or circumstance. Another essential part of lifelong learning with humility is the ability to receive feedback. Feedback, whether positive or negative, carries information that helps you better understand yourself and adjust your course. To receive it effectively, you must set aside ego and approach it with a learning spirit. The Stoics see feedback as a mirror, reflecting blind spots you might not notice, and offering the chance to correct and improve. Lifelong learning also requires patience, for the most valuable truths often emerge only after prolonged observation, reflection, and experience. In an age of constant information and rapid consumption, many fall into the illusion that they have mastered something after a few minutes of reading or listening. But to the Stoics, learning is not mere information intake, it is the integration of knowledge into your way of living, until it shapes your thinking and actions. This process takes time, persistence, and the awareness that every small step forward matters. Learning for life with humility not only enriches the mind, but also nurtures virtue. It keeps the mind supple enough to adapt to change, while strengthening the inner core so it is not shaken by hardship. The Stoics hold that knowledge is not for boasting or asserting power, but for living rightly, with reason, and in harmony with the nature of the world. When you learn with humility, you not only broaden your understanding, you also become steadier, calmer, and wiser, carrying these qualities with you for the rest of your journey. 12. Choose the right companions. Choosing the right companions is a decision that can shape your entire path of growth. For the relationships around you influence not only your emotions, but also your thinking, actions, and discipline. The Stoics understand that while the broader social environment is not always in our control, we can choose who we allow into our inner circle. By choosing those who share your values, encourage your growth, and keep you anchored to your purpose, you create a supportive ecosystem for lasting progress. Every companion brings their own energy, beliefs, and habits. If they live without direction, often complain, or pull you off course, their influence will seep into you quietly over time. Conversely, if they live with purpose, value discipline, and act with integrity, their presence becomes a reminder and motivation to stay on your chosen path. The Stoics stress that closeness should not be defined by convenience or history, but by alignment in principles and direction. Choosing the right companions does not mean finding people identical to you. In fact, diversity of perspective can expand your vision and guard you against narrow thinking. But this diversity must rest on mutual respect and some shared core values, such as integrity, responsibility, and sincerity. When value differences are too great, relationships become a source of conflict and drain your energy rather than foster growth. A crucial aspect of choosing companions is recognizing who genuinely wants you to grow. Some will stand beside you only in success, but vanish or even resist when you change for the better. The Stoics advise that true companionship is not just sharing joy, but also facing trials together, offering honest counsel even when it is hard to hear, and keeping you grounded in difficult times. These are the people whose presence helps you maintain vision and discipline, especially under pressure. Choosing well also involves knowing when to keep distance from those who harm your peace or undermine your values. This is not an act of harsh judgment, but a way to protect your clarity and focus. The Stoics see this as part of personal responsibility. If you allow negative relationships to dominate, you are permitting yourself to be pulled away from the right path. Moreover, companionship must be mutual. Support is not only about receiving, but also giving. If you want to be surrounded by trustworthy, inspiring people, you must also be such a person yourself. The Stoics believe strong relationships are built on the exchange of value, where each contributes to the shared growth and accepts responsibility for their role in the bond. Finally, choosing the right companions is an ongoing process, not a one-time decision. People change, circumstances shift, and sometimes relationships that once fit no longer play a positive role. Staying alert and periodically evaluating your closest ties ensures that your inner circle continues to match your current stage of growth. The Stoics see this as essential to living with intention because the journey of growth is never walked alone, but it cannot be walked with everyone. By consciously selecting and maintaining the right companions, you not only shield yourself from harmful influences, but also build a network that sustains you through challenges and helps you go further. This is an investment of spirit with long-term value, for the right companions will not only walk beside you in times of ease, but help you stand firm and stay true when the path becomes difficult. 13. Gratitude and presence every day. Practicing gratitude and presence each day is a foundational principle for maintaining inner peace, even when the external world is in turmoil. In Stoic philosophy, gratitude is not merely a polite thank you or a fleeting positive emotion. It is a deep state of awareness in which you consciously recognize the value of what you already have, whether great or small. Gratitude shifts your focus away from what is lacking and toward what is present, easing anxiety, reducing dissatisfaction, and allowing you to live more fully in the present moment. The Stoics believe that happiness does not come from possessing more, but from appreciating what already exists within reach. Gratitude is a form of mental discipline, for it requires you to deliberately see the positive even when circumstances are far from perfect. Practiced daily, it gradually reshapes your perception, turning obstacles into opportunities for learning and growth. This does not mean ignoring hardship, it means choosing to face it with clarity and agency. Alongside gratitude is the capacity for presence. Presence is not simply being physically there. It is full engagement with the moment at hand, undistracted by regrets of the past or worries about the future. The Stoics emphasized that the present moment is the only thing you truly possess, and how you live in it determines the quality of your life. When you are present, you allow yourself to experience life fully, to notice beauty in simple things, and to stay deeply connected to yourself. The combination of gratitude and presence forms a strong mental foundation. Gratitude fosters a positive mindset, while presence enables you to fully enjoy and make the most of the moment. Together, they shield you from meaningless comparisons and the pressure to constantly achieve more in order to feel complete. Instead, you find contentment in the act of living itself, regardless of whether circumstances are favorable. Another benefit of gratitude and presence is emotional self-control. When your mind is consumed by worry or dissatisfaction, your reactions tend to be impulsive, driven by passing emotions. But when you remain present, you create the pause necessary to choose your response with reason. Gratitude serves as a filter, helping you see the bigger picture instead of being trapped in a single situation. The Stoics also viewed gratitude as a means of loosening attachment to what lies beyond your control. When you appreciate what you have, you are less driven by the urge to possess or the fear of losing. This frees you from cycles of anxiety and allows you to live with inner freedom. Likewise, presence releases you from the weight of the past and the pull of the future, enabling you to make the most of what is unfolding now. Cultivating gratitude and presence is not a one-time act, but a daily practice. It requires discipline to continually return to the present and patience to slowly transform mental habits. The Stoics believe this to be one of the most valuable long-term investments for the mind, for it improves emotional quality while building resilience against pressure and change. Ultimately, gratitude and presence are reminders that life is always happening right before your eyes. If you do not pause to appreciate it and truly live in it, you will miss its subtlest treasures. When these two principles work together, you build not only a steady mind but also a reservoir of positive energy that enriches every aspect of life, from work and relationships to personal growth. This is one of the most important steps toward living in the Stoic spirit: deliberate, clear-minded, and wholehearted. 14. Lead through presence, not words. Leading through presence, not words, is a profound Stoic principle that emphasizes that lasting influence does not come from promises or eloquent slogans, but from the way you live, act, and embody your values each day. Presence here is more than physical. It is the union of attitude, conduct, and the alignment between what you believe and what you do. When your presence is strong and steady, you communicate powerfully without excessive speech, for people tend to believe what they see you live out more than what they hear you say. In Stoic philosophy, leadership begins with self-leadership. If a person cannot govern their own thoughts, emotions, and actions, they will struggle to lead others effectively. Your presence reflects your level of self-mastery and integrity in all situations. When you can control your reactions under pressure, remain calm amid chaos, and stay faithful to your core values, you become an anchor for those around you even without issuing commands or demands. Leading through presence also means accepting that actions persuade more than words. Anyone can promise change or commit to high standards, but if their life does not reflect those ideals, their words lose weight. In contrast, when you quietly live out the principles you uphold, you not only earn personal credibility but also inspire respect and trust in others. This requires consistency, a trait the Stoics regarded as essential to all leadership. Consistency means you live by your principles, not only when things are easy, but also when challenges arise. When people see that your values do not shift with changing circumstances, they recognize that your guidance is not theoretical, but grounded in a lived and sustainable way of being. Another important aspect of leading through presence is the ability to inspire through personal example. When you maintain discipline, work with focus, and solve problems with composure, you encourage those around you to raise their own standards. This influence happens naturally, without pressure or commands, because people are more deeply inspired by witnessing someone truly live their beliefs. The Stoics also stressed that leading through presence is a form of responsibility. You are responsible not only for your actions, but for the effect your presence has on others. Every time you choose calm over anger, perseverance over surrender, you send a powerful message that stability comes from inner mastery, not from external conditions. Such leadership is not about seeking attention, but about allowing attention to come to you naturally. When you live consistently with your principles, others will approach you to learn or collaborate because they see you as a steady and trustworthy source. This builds a kind of authority deeper than any title or formal position, authority grounded in genuine respect. In the end, leading through presence is a reminder that true influence lies not in how much you speak, but in how you live. The values, discipline, and attitude you sustain daily become an unspoken language that inspires and guides those around you. This is the most enduring form of leadership, for it does not rely on power or pressure, but on inner strength and unwavering consistency. When your presence is solid enough, you need not say much, your life itself will speak for you. I believe that all the principles in this video are not merely philosophies to be read and set aside, but practical directions for living that can be applied to our daily lives. Personal discipline, a tranquil mind, steadfastness in vision, and a humble spirit of learning form the foundation upon which anyone can stand firm amid life's uncertainties. They do not require you to change everything overnight, but encourage you to take small, consistent steps that time will turn into strength. For me, what matters is not the values you talk about, but how you live so that those values become part of who you are. To live in the Stoic spirit is to embrace the long road, to constantly train yourself, to maintain integrity, and to let your presence speak for itself. This is not only a way to face hardship, it is a way to lead your own life. If what I've shared has given you a new perspective or a source of motivation, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next content. Finally, live each day as if it were your only chance to express the best version of yourself, not for anyone else, but for you. See you in the next video.